What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and oh boy, Sony just bought Bungie, or PlayStation, however you want to say it, has just bought Bungie Studios for $3.6 billion. I want to go over a couple things that was said about this, talk about my reaction. Now, this is probably going to surprise people. This is really going to hurt that narrative of me being a PlayStation fanboy or me just like taking sides. No, I'm going to be very consistent, very specifically consistent on the stuff that I've said about these monopolies forming, as I've said in the past with Microsoft. So let me just quickly say the biggest part of this, right? Well, number one, I mean, having Bungie, having the studios that come with that. Number two, being $3.6 billion, good amount of money, very good amount of money. I kind of feel like that's a little expensive for somebody of Bungie, but I'm not the biggest fan of Bungie or like Destiny and what that just is. So maybe I'm not the most qualified to talk about it, and that is more than fair. I totally respect that. You also have that Bungie will remain multi-platform. That was one of the first things, one of the first words or sentences in the PlayStation blog, is that Bungie will remain a multi-platform studio, and players will be able to play Bungie games wherever they play. Now, again, like we've talked about with Xbox and with Phil Spencer, that is very easy to say. That has been said. It was said for Bethesda. It's being said now for Activision Blizzard. Will it actually come true? Well, we know for Bethesda that is not true, right? That was basically a lie, which is, I'm not saying it's fine. Actually, you shouldn't lie, but I guess in the general sense. But I'm just saying this stuff has happened, and it can very easily happen for both sides of the coin. So we'll have to see if this legitimately is going to happen the way that they're saying, where, Destiny games, future Destiny games, future games that, Bungie makes that aren't Destiny, if they are only on PlayStation or, this or that. You could make the same argument as we've made for, Xbox, where it's like, well, do you spend $3.6 billion, and now you're looking at Sony, right? Less money. They have less money on hand, less money to do these kind of things. Do you have the money to do something like this, and then do you still put it on other platforms? Again, though, you could say, well, you make money from that. Anytime somebody does something Destiny-wise, or if there's like a Game Pass agreement in place for Destiny games, that money would now go directly to play. So Microsoft would be paying, Sony for this kind of stuff. So, you can make the argument one way or the other. All right, that's the news. How I feel about it, well, I've already kind of talked about it. I don't like it. I mean, I've said this before with Microsoft. Now, I guess to stay extremely consistent, almost word for word, if you were, praising this and you're excited for this for Xbox, you should be excited about this for PlayStation. There's no doubt it's a big move for PlayStation. There's no doubt that it's a I don't want to say like winning move. I don't know why that's the first thing that came to mind. It's something that is bold and is going to help them, right? It's going to help them. It's a move to further their success, just like when Microsoft buys Activision, when they buy Bethesda, whatever. Good for them, because it's going to help them 100%. There's no way it doesn't. Same thing for this. Now, I would say I want to say this, but I don't want people to take it out of context. Again, in terms of the Bungie thing, and this is just me not being that big of a fan, would I have preferred PlayStation to buy something else or somebody else besides Bungie or outside Bungie? Yes. Now, again, don't twist that. The real answer, it's kind of a trick question, trick answer. I don't want anybody buying any of these things. It's, again, something you're seeing. And I really hope, I pray to God that we don't see this on Twitter. And we will, because Twitter is hell on earth. We all know this. Where people are being pretty critical of Sony doing this. Now, that's fine. That is fine. I'm going to be the same thing, too. But you better have, and I'm not saying you, the viewer, right? Because I don't like to talk down like G4 TV or something. I don't like to talk down to the audience. What I'm saying is I am hoping that the people on Twitter that are freaking out about this also maybe triply, if that's a word, they freaked out about Microsoft. I want things to be fair. Is that too much to ask? I really don't think it is. If people are going to be mad at this, which I don't like this, I think it's, again, consolidation. That's the key word, right? And by the way, don't think for a second that Sony is done, because I guarantee you they are not. I guarantee you they buy. There's a lot of people throwing around Square Enix. Does that make the most sense? 100%. Because you go to Final Fantasy, you even go, back in the day with Kingdom Hearts, there is definitely a synergy between Square Enix and PlayStation. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. Again, is that a good move? Well, it's good in the sense that it helps PlayStation out. It quote unquote evens the playing field. But is it good in a monopoly? Is it good in consolidation? Is it good in that we're going to have 3 to 5 companies just owning Microsoft, Sony, Embracer Group, Tencent? Like, is that all we want, that owns everything? Because that's what we're heading for. I don't want that. I absolutely don't want that. So, being critical on Sony, yeah, I mean, that's probably not going to play off well to some of my viewers because I am kind of seeing more, I guess, leaning gaming-wise, maybe I'm more of a PlayStation channel than anything else. I don't really think that's true, but that's maybe how I'm perceived. That's fine, whatever, but I just want to make it clear. Like, I just want to hold everybody to the same standards. I see it as a win for Sony in the way that they get something to compete against. Now, I don't think it competes against either Bethesda or Activision Blizzard. I think it's maybe like half as much as one of me. And again, that's just me saying it. Maybe that's wrong. I don't think it's like the Titan buy that they did. Which you could say, well, does Sony need to do that? No, that's the other thing, and that's the final thing. So let me end it with this. Okay, let me end it with this thought. That's the final part to this puzzle. In a way, it actually almost hurts more that Sony is doing this because, again, helps the consolidation, helps monopolies. I get it because you're trying to compete with Microsoft, but doesn't this go against what I think not just they've said, because like they've talked about organic growth, but it also goes like with what I've said and what others have said, where it's like they do the best doing this organically, growing small. Now, I know people have said like statistically, most of their studios were bought. They didn't actually like open them up themselves and grow them from the ground level. True, but I've never really said, that wasn't true. What I've said is Sony has always done very smart, small moves. So when you buy Insomniac for, what was Insomniac worth? At this point, they're worth like 1/10, 1/15 of the price they just bought Bungie, right? You buy them so small, even though small money-wise, but they're so good. And then over time, you immediately make that value back, make that money back because they just kill it. They're leading the PlayStation 5. They led the PS4. You know what I mean? So those are the kind of, like Naughty Dog, same thing. Yes, Naughty Dog was bought. It wasn't their own studio from the ground up. But let's be real. Sony's organic growth, quote unquote, let's call it, right? They grew Naughty Dog. They didn't buy they didn't buy them at zero, or they didn't open them up at zero. They brought them in, but then you grow it. So even like Housemarque, I would argue the exact same thing for Housemarque. Housemarque was pretty much PlayStation family, and Sony is going to help them grow over time. That's how Sony does things, and that's how Sony has always been successful. As I've said, and I still think this, you can't compete with Microsoft in this specific game. Now, can this help? Sure. And maybe that's the plan. Maybe Sony buys a couple cheap ones, and not that $3.6 billion isn't cheap, you know what I mean? But, you buy a Bungie, you buy a Square Enix. Now, Square Enix is more expensive, right? I think they're in the tens of some, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're, I forget looking at the actual model, right? But, all right, let's say they cap it off at Square Enix. They buy them for 10, 15 billion. So now you bought 2 of them. You got 20 billion. Now you've used a lot of your money. You're never going to get that back, right? So you've used it. Can you still do the strategy that is kind of in your core and in your DNA, right? Switching your DNA mid-shift is probably not a good idea, right? If Microsoft, and this is being critical of Microsoft, if Microsoft wants to buy their way to the top, which, let's be fair, is what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, they're talented and they have a lot of great games, and I'm going to buy or use Game Pass to get like 95 to 99% of these games over the next, 5-10 years, okay? I'm going to get so many of these. So I'm not saying I hate them, but the idea for Microsoft is let's just buy, right? We're just going to acquire literally everybody. We're going to add them on, and nobody can compete because we have more money than anyone, and we're just going to have these. And by the way, again, good or bad, that's their plan. If Sony wants to shift to Microsoft's plan, they'll never be able to compete with it. Ever, right? Microsoft will always win because they just have more money. They always will. Maybe if an economic collapse happens, maybe something like that. Maybe the tables turn slightly. But that's the way it is. So Sony, I've always appreciated Sony's strategy of just being different, firstly, and just being they grow from within, or they buy cheap. Like I've used the sports analogy so much. You do cheap deals in the summer in free agency. You buy free agents that are cheap, but they have good metrics, they have good analytics, and then you end up looking really smart because you make your money back. And that's what Sony really is all about, because they can't go out and just buy everybody, right? That's not their plan. So I don't know. This better not, and this is not a threat, but I'm just saying it, in terms of a strong opinion, this better not take away from their ability to do what they've already done and their strategy. Win or lose, it's their strategy that has succeeded for them for a very long time, right? If buying Bungie means that they can't open up some of these second-party studios like that Deviation or whatever, right? Like if it means you can't do that anymore, or if it means you can't buy a smaller, like an Ember Lab, which, by the way, that makes sense. Buy an Ember Lab cheap, very small. Grow them, make a Kena, Bridge of Spirits 2, make a second game. You can do that. Now, can they still do that? I hope so. I think so. But, you know, if they buy Bungie, if they buy Square Enix and they say, all right, we're done. Like, that was our summer. That was our free agency period. Now we don't have money anymore to spend on our own players, which is their own studios, right? That better not happen, because if it happens, they're screwed. They screw themselves out of it. So, you know, very critical on Sony. I've been very critical on Microsoft. Now people are going to think that I'm a diehard Xbox fan, which is going to be very hard for people to prove. But we'll see what you guys come up with. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon, all that good stuff. Leave a like, please, if you want. If you want to leave a dislike, that's fine too. If you want to follow me anywhere else, all my social media is in the description below, including my Patreon and YouTube memberships. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all on the next video.